How y'all doing? This is Mongo Slade, and the nonsense around Brodie Lee's death continues. This time, Meltzer and Ringside News get straightened out by Amanda Huber. So on January the 18th, 2021, Dave Meltzer posted, regarding the death of Brodie Lee, there was apparently lung damage that he had previously that was not diagnosed. I'm reading it as it was written. Previously, that was not diagnosed was prior to his lungs not working, but even when they figured that out, they weren't able to save him. Essentially, they said it was basically a pre-existing lung damage. Okay, that's essentially what Meltzer is saying. So then Ringside News takes that and posts an article, Brodie Lee passed away due to pre-existing lung damage. This led Amanda Huber, the wife of Brodie Lee, to say, quote, if Ringside News could get a hold of me and fill me in, that would be great. Apparently, they have information that I don't, which is weird considering I was at the hospital every day. Hashtag top-notch journalism. So, Ringside News contacts Amanda Huber. I believe this is Instagram or something to that effect. So, Ringside News says, saw that you reacted to the Brodie Lee story, which Dave Meltzer reported in the Wrestling Observer newsletter. Oftentimes, we will pick up stories for Ringside News from other publications. These stories don't reflect from what we were told independently, which is why we source other publications as the source of the news. However, we were told something similar from someone that does work for AEW, but we did not independently report it because we were asked not to. If you would like to offer a statement in regarding to Dave's report, we will be happy to publish it. She responded, this isn't how you apologize, for the record. You had a clickbait title without any fact checking. Do better. Ringside News responded, this wasn't an apology. This was me telling you what happened. Unless you want to provide any additional information, there is nothing here to discuss. We heard similar to Dave Meltzer's report and confirmed it with other people at AEW. As far as it being clickbait, the title reflects what is said in the article. I understand your family is going through a tough time or a hard time, and I do apologize for that, but what Dave reported is what Dave reported. We were not the only site that reported what Dave said. We didn't report it from our end because we were asked not to, and what he did report was similar. Like I said, if you would like to issue a statement, we are all here for it. So then Amanda Huber responds again. Any news regarding my husband is coming from a third or fourth party. Unless you hear it from me, no, you might not be getting the truth. I am currently working on getting the whole story out there. It's coming soon, I promise. But no, 1, it wasn't COVID. 2, it wasn't a pre-existing condition. So shout out to Meltzer Says What on Twitter, because I saw this. He had collected this information. So I should have said that at the top of the video, but at Meltzer Says What on Twitter. He's the guy, he kind of follows Meltzer around and, make sure that people realize the dumb shit that Dave Meltzer is saying. But I've been up on Ringside News for a while. Ringside News is absolute scum. They're trash. Okay, their response here is just as bad as the article. Now, the article itself, for starters, you shouldn't trust other people's information. Always double check shit yourself, especially if you're going to be putting stuff out there. Well, the first thing we need to be saying is that Dave Meltzer is fucking illiterate. Okay, his writing is awful. It is awful. I don't see how he's been doing this for 30 years and he can't to run on sentences. The lack of punctuation. It's absolute trash. But what pisses me off about this isn't that, there was misinformation got out there, because that happens. Misinformation gets out there. It's the response. It is the lack of an apology. This wasn't an apology. This was me telling you what happened. Unless you want to provide additional information, there is nothing here to discuss. What do you mean? There is nothing here to discuss. There is something here to discuss. Your information is wrong. And you can't verify it by putting names on it. You put the name on it, right, that people would know, which means you put Dave Meltzer's name on it. But you wouldn't use your AEW source. Despite the fact that you believe this to be true, you didn't use the AEW. Well, Jim Ross came out a couple of weeks ago, right? And he said on his podcast that Brodie Lee had double lung failure or something to that effect, and he wasn't able to be have a transplant. And I think that fueled a lot of this shit, right? If that was the person who had said something like, okay, well, we got this from Jim Ross and Dave Meltzer, but if you're saying that it's the opposite, we're willing to, amend the article to say that this is untrue, right? Ringside News, the way that they handled this is pure idiocy. Meltzer deserves to be blamed for putting bad information out there, sure. He put the bad information out there, but people who are not double checking Dave Meltzer is a problem. Why do you think that Dave Meltzer is always telling the truth? That he can't possibly be lying? He doesn't use any direct quotes. He's not quoting anybody. He doesn't use any names. You can't check his sources. You're saying, well, I heard something similar from similar people. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? How do we know that these people exist? We're just supposed to believe what we're told because we were told it by Dave Meltzer, and then because you did, and so many other people did. That's the thing about, the wrestling journalists. That's journalism in general now. Now that it's become really, really lazy, and every news site is just an aggregator. You see literally the same shit on every site as reported in the Wrestling Observer newsletter, as reported by the PW Insider. We didn't add anything new to it. We didn't look it up, make sure it was true. We just posted what they posted. Hey, look at us. And then you get called out, and it's like, oh, why are you calling me out? It was Dave. Dave did it. It's like, why look stupid for Dave's shit? Look stupid for your own shit. Like, that's one of the things that when I was looking into going into journalism in college, one of the first things I learned was make sure you can only trust your own information, because you never know what somebody else's biases might be. You never know what the hell they're cutting out, what the hell they're leaving out. This is why you have 500 books on the Civil War, because people are going to read one book and be like, something feels like something is missing here. They're going to go do their own research, come back, oh, okay, and add. And then it's going to be people who read those two books and are like, what's going on here? And then they're going to go, that's how you get 800 books on one subject, because all these different people did different research, right? But you don't get that in wrestling journalism. You don't even get that in common journalism. You get one story. Everybody just agrees that this is the story. Or what you could have done, if you were going to do this, is put Meltzer reports Brodie Lee died in XYZ way, as reported by Dave Meltzer. And then put it at the top of the thing. Hey, Meltzer says this. Not ringside news. We don't know. This is what Meltzer says. And then leave it at that. But now somebody on Twitter, when I responded that ringside news is scum and they're absolute gutter, they said, well, why are you blaming them? It was Meltzer that put out the bad information. Because the thing is, not just because it's not just about the bad information. It's also about the response. Saying that there's nothing to discuss here. What do you mean? She's saying that the report is wrong. There is a lot to discuss. Take the report down. Or amend the report to say, this is not original reporting. This is reporting from such and such. Or how about putting in the headline, Meltzer reports Brodie Lee passed away due to pre-existing lung damage. That will get away the rest of this shit. It's not us. We're just reporting what somebody else said. And then when you have an original story, put exclusive in it, like something like Fightful does. Like Fightful does exclusive, yada, yada, yada. That way we know this is at least original reporting and not an aggregation. But most of these sites just aggregate, man. It's like and I believe Ringside News is the same people who posted that Ricochet shit earlier this week. This is January the 16th. So I believe that weren't they the same site that posted Ricochet was leaving in 2021? And then just a few hours later, Ricochet said it was fake news. Like, I know my boy Millennial Smart. He reads Ringside News. he makes me cringe every time I see it. I'm like, he's doing Ringside News clips. But I mean, sometimes I understand it, but always read this shit with a grain of salt, man. Ringside News is not credible. A lot of these wrestling websites, if we're being honest, are not credible. They don't look at everything in the entire context, which is why I try to provide entire context. But this is obviously just a response to an article headline, right? But in order for you to say what happened, you probably need first party, somebody willing to put their name on it. And that's it. Otherwise, just say we're following the story. Or if Jim Ross said something on his podcast, say Jim Ross said it. And why not? Because he did say it. He said it on his podcast. And let Jim Ross take the heat if it's wrong. Don't put the heat on yourself by trying to be big league and putting out a big bold headline that ended up being wrong. But I said before that a lot of these wrestling websites do this stuff. They would rather be wrong initially and then get corrected just so they can say, well, we talked to so-and-so and now, no, man. Because not everybody's going to want to, correct this bad information. So this is stupid. This was dumb, man. Hate that his wife got to go through this, but, it is what it is, Shame on Meltzer for putting this information out there and for his writing, which is absolute trash. Shame on Ringside News for saying that this wasn't an apology where it really should have been. He should have apologized and say, if it's incorrect, we apologize. Would you like to correct the record or whatever? But saying that there's nothing here to discuss is absolutely, it shows that you didn't really give a shit. You're basically saying, well, it's not our responsibility to double check our work. Well, it's not our responsibility to double check what we put on our site. Like, what the fuck? Then whose responsibility is it? Well, Meltzer said it. So, everything, what he said is not literally the fucking word. Okay, it's not, capital W word. Double check what he says. And they say, well, we independently double checked it. Oh, fuck out of here. Then why didn't you say exclusive? Nonsense. We were asked not to. Then how come you responded? How come you posted something after Meltzer said it? You were asked not to say anything. This is stupid. This is I know, man. When we do wrestling stuff, we rely a lot on the wrestling journalism. Unless we have direct quotes or something like that, please take this shit with a grain of salt. Understand what she said is absolutely correct. Sometimes you get in third, fourth party information. Sometimes you get in the information from a biased source. Like a lot of people who put out stories over the years, it was only one person talking to Meltzer. So Meltzer put out a story that was the quote unquote real story. But it was really just one person talking to him. One person involved. Like two people get into a fight. One of them run to Meltzer. The other one doesn't. The real story is just the one that ran to Meltzer. He got the real story. Even though it's an incredibly biased, one-sided story, he got the real story. I mean, that's helpful because you did get the opinion of at least one of the people involved. But it's not the whole story. And then years later when someone else says, oh, no, that's not what happened. It's like, well, this has been out there for a decade. It's like, well, shit, I don't read the sheets because I didn't know. But this isn't completely true. So it's take everything that, I always say that. If I can't independently that's what I used to do with the Dark Side of the Ring. I used to do my own investigations. Looking into people or just adding things, adding context, adding quotes and different stuff like that from their shows because I know how slanted this shit is. I know how unfair it is. I know that sometimes people are not getting all the information or they're just only getting headlines to get attention, and it's bullshit. It's not appropriate. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Shout out to what Meltzer says what on Twitter. It's usually a pretty good follow. he posts stuff like this all the time with Meltzer, saying insane things either on his Twitter page, which I'm blocked from, or his other sites, and maybe if you are interested in getting counter arguments to what Meltzer and Alvarez and people like that are saying, that would actually be pretty good. But thank you guys for listening. Spread the good word of 3 Count Commentaries. I'll talk to you guys later. I appreciate you.
Da, 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 da.